This is a public hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Evanston. The zoning ordinance directs this body to hear applications for major variations, special uses, and appeals from decisions of the zoning administrator. Depending on the type of matter, this board will either make a final determination or send its recommendation to City Council. Would you please read the roll of members?
Matt Rogers,
Present.
Scott Gingold,
Present.
Mary Beth Burns,
Present.
Violetta Cullen,
Present.
Clara Weinberg,
Present.
Andrew Gallimore, and Beth McLennan.
Thank you. With 5 members, we do have a quorum. Also present tonight are zoning planner Melissa Klotz, planning and zoning administrator Lori Pearson, and assistant city attorney Mario Tretto. This is a formal meeting and there are rules that govern our proceedings. Most importantly, only one person speaks at a time to accurately record the proceedings. Anyone who wishes to address the board regarding any matter on the agenda will have the opportunity to do so at the appropriate time. Our procedure is to hear from staff on documents on file and then receive testimony and other evidence from the applicant or appellant. Next, persons who wish to make a statement regarding the matter may do so at that time. Any person with a legal interest in property located within 500 feet of the subject property may present evidence, reasonably question witnesses, or seek a continuance of the hearing. When all supporting and opposing testimony and statements have been heard, the applicant or appellant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal or a closing statement. Then the board will close the record and begin deliberations. All testimony will be under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence, please limit your testimony or statement to your personal knowledge. When you address the board, please state your name and address and be sure to sign up on the provided sheet. We are audio and video recorded. Please make sure that you are at a microphone when asking questions or making statements so that you can be properly recorded. All proceedings are subject to broadcast at a later date. Any matter not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting. We do have 4 items on the agenda. One is a carryover from our last meeting, as well as 3 new items. Is the applicant from 1413, 1415 Howard Street present? Thank you. From 1737 Sherman Avenue, 2008 Dempster Street, and 221, 223 Kedzie. All right. The first matter on our agenda this evening is to approve our minutes from July 15th, which was our last meeting. Has everyone who attended had an opportunity to read through those minutes? And are there any changes or edits?
Only in that I don't believe I commented on whether the units would be large enough. I was more concerned with light and bend. So the very last note attributed to me, and I can mark it up for you to edit. Should be stricken on the second. Yeah, right there.
Are there any other edits or changes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of July 15th, 2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With that, the minutes will be approved as amended. The first case we have on our agenda this evening, as I mentioned before, is continued from our meeting on July 15th for 1413, 1415 Howard Street. I would remind anyone who spoke to us during the last time that they are still under oath. Is there anyone who will be giving testimony on this matter tonight who did not speak with us last time?
Mr. Ward, was not here last time. He is one of the owners, so in case there's any questions.
All right. Yes, if you'd raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? Thank you. All right. Mr. Moore, would you like to tell us about the changes that have been made to the proposal?
Yes, sir. First of all, we'd like to thank you for your indulgence and patience with us. And last time the board raised some very insightful and helpful comments, and we did go back to the drawing boards and did take the comments seriously and reconfigured our request and basically reduced. You'll remember this is a request to take an older building and renovate it that's been, it has commercial on the ground floor, and it's, the commercial has been unused for many years, and to both fill that need and also because, as was testified by Mr. Cerny last time, there is a need for accessible units. So our primary request is to allow us to put residential units on the ground floor at this location. We also were asking for a variance to reduce the parking. However, after considering the board's comments and reconfiguring the entire project, we've reduced the number of units from on the ground floor from 7 to 6, and we've used the space that was the extra unit to add 3 parking spaces. So we now would have just 6 units on the ground floor and 12 parking spaces. And we therefore would be able to withdraw our request for the variance and just go forward on the special use. So we're just requesting to allow us to develop the ground floor as residential, and adopting all of the reasons and testimony we gave last time, we'd ask if you'd please consider that.
Thank you. The 3 parking spaces which are enclosed now in the northeast corner of the property, is that an existing garage?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And are there any changes being made to that specific space to enlarge it or anything, or is it going to be exactly as it exists now in terms of size?
Here, you want to come and speak to the board, please?
It is an enclosed space now, and we're just going to remove the space and create the 3 parking spaces for it. We're not enlarging it in any
Okay.
whatsoever. The size remains the same.
So we're not using it as residential. That, the plan was to convert it. We're not going to convert it.
Right. I mean, I was just, and I'm sure building would have more say in this, but obviously if it's an attached garage space to a residential, there are some issues there that would come into play, but they will handle that, not necessarily us, especially if it's not changing. I'm assuming it probably meets most of those codes anyway. We've noticed that there has been a loading area that has kind of been proposed in the main drive area. Could you speak a little to that for us, please?
Well, we're considering the space to be used mostly by folks that have special needs. And therefore, we wanted to create something that would be easy, loading facility so that they can get on and off, from the ramp. That's just makes sense, if it's an accessible building, it should have accessible entrance and exit. So that's the reason.
All right. And I'm also noticing that because of the new configuration of the parking, the one area that we had concern about was where the westernmost corner of the building cuts in there, that we now have, it appears to be a little over 10 feet clearance for a drive. So that should take away from any of the concerns we had about that being able to be a thorough way through the lot.
That's my understanding, that it now would meet your code or your criteria.
Are there other questions from members of the board?
Well, I'm still concerned with the fact that there's a residential unit right on the property line.
I think we can address that. I will let Melissa talk to that and what the plan is there.
After conferring with the city's commercial plan reviewer, he indicated to me that the burden would fall on the property to the east. If that property ever intends to build closer to the property line, they will be responsible for maintaining the proper distance required by the building code.
But they're entitled to build to the property line too, because of the zoning right now. They're allowed to build to the property line.
But the building code will trump the zoning code in that
So-
case.
So will them, because the way the IBC reads is that you're measured to the interior lot line, not to building.
So I think.
So they're governed by the same requirement as well.
So I think this is an existing building, and it
But it
has a
does
right.
not have residential units along the property line, and that wall is rated as some sort of capacity. You would have to have that confirmed of what that rating is, because it is on the property line.
It does have residential units on the second floor, existing. And you have zoning and you have fire code, and fire would have a separate, this is existing, and so if someone's going to propose something next door, they'll have to deal with what's existing, and from a fire code, not a zoning code point of view, they would have to be so much distance away, I believe.
Their actions don't preclude what it needs to happen with this building. So, certainly, even as designed right now, as a residential building, you will need to meet compliance with IBC, and therefore, that wall needs to be rated in some capacity.
That may be, yes.
Regardless.
Sure.
Because you're right on that property. And it might preclude you from having, if you're following the current code, it will limit your allowable unprotected openings, and in particular, on that ground floor. So it's a risk, is really what we're saying, and if we're willing to codify it, that's fine, but we might be accepting what could be substandard units in there.
I don't belittle your concern, but it's hypothetical, it may never happen, and this is an existing building with existing residential, and we're just extending the residential to the ground floor.
The way the code is, and this isn't the forum for reviewing how the code is written. Their variance is seeking to put residential right on the property line on the ground floor. So mere suggestion would be that you don't put the unit that you sacrificed, I'm not sure which unit you sacrificed, but it seems like you just get rid of the one that you have up against the east side and move it to the one that you sacrificed.
The one we sacrificed was where the existing garage was, so that we got rid of the what seemed to be the main concern of the board, which was parking. And we used that garage space, as it's always been used, as garage space, and added 3 parking spaces, and did not convert that to a residential unit. But the ground floor front residential unit would be, an ideal unit, be the one with the southern light, and that's not one you would want to eliminate. It'd be probably the best unit in the building.
I think there are ways of meeting the intent of the overarching building code without having to sacrifice the project. So we can codify, we can articulate that in any sort of comments. I mean, maybe they don't have windows along that side. There are other opportunities that they can move that unit somewhere else.
I have a question for you. Is the units that are up above on the second and third floor, is that part of the building right on the lot line as well?
Yes.
For those conditions, it's usually there's stipulation of a distance from the roof below. So there's a sort of triangulation that happens within the code. So that's very common that happens in Irma lots. You just have
It
to have a
strikes-
distance from the roof below.
It strikes me that we're making a recommendation to City Council. It strikes me that we could condition our recommended approval, if that's the direction we're going, on council's determination that the property can be developed in compliance with the building code, including the fire code portion of the building code, if that's, I sense that's your concern.
And I think that's always, my understanding of ZBA rulings is always that it's conditioned on meeting all other codes.
Right. I mean, we don't have the ability to override building code stipulations.
No, but we don't have to grant a special use unless that condition can be met. We don't have to create a precedent for granting a special use like this unless
Correct,
that
but
particular.
we also do not grant special uses. So we can express our concerns to city council. We can let them know what our concerns are. And ultimately, city council will make the decision based on their level of comfort with this particular project and knowing that there may be some issues raised with building code.
Right. I agree with Clara's concern, and didn't mean to suggest we grant special uses, but we don't have to set a precedent for recommending them either, unless we create conditions that make us comfortable to make that recommendation.
Right. Are there other questions? Was there anything that anybody else had to say to us on this particular matter? I don't think anybody else was here for it. So with that, Mr. Moore, I will just ask you if you'd like to make a summation, and we will then deliberate the matter.
Just very briefly, and again, thank you. We have a situation and a need. We have a building that's been unused for many years and that is somewhat of an eyesore. We have someone who's willing to invest and renovate it and also fill a need for accessible units. And whereas generally ground floor units in commercial areas are only recommended when, in certain, if we meet the criteria of special use. I think this application, given this history and given this unique situation, meets the criteria and would be a benefit to both the community and the owner and the people who will use it, and we respectfully request your support.
Thank you. With that, we will go ahead and close the record and begin the deliberation. As mentioned at the beginning, we are a recommending body to City Council on this since it is a special use, and the original request for zoning relief on parking has been removed because the proposed new project meets the parking requirements that are required for this space. So I will ask for general comments from the board.
In general, I like the project. I like that they are providing an underserved, a product to an underserved population. So there aren't very many accessible units. I like that they have modified the plan to resolve parking. As we all know, parking is a major issue. So thank you for resolving that and taking that off the table. And I like the idea of getting more people on Howard and revitalizing that section of Evanston. So I think all of that is good. I share the same concerns Clara has about that unit on that east wall. So I would like to include some limitation that it be whatever.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, then we do have a set of 9 standards that we must find are met in order for us to make a recommendation on a special use to City Council. We will go through those standards, and I invite anyone, if they disagree with anything I'm saying, to jump in at that time. Number 1, it is one of the special uses specifically listed in the zoning ordinance. We do find that a multiple family dwelling with residential spaces on the ground floor is one of the special uses that is allowed in a B2 business district, so this standard has been met. Number 2, it is in keeping with the purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and zoning ordinance as amended from time to time. This particular project, as Mary Beth mentioned, is one that is targeting a very specific need in the community in terms of making accessible spaces, which I think is one of the things that we are looking to do through the various tools that we have. Also the fact that this is a vacant building that has been sitting, and we are always looking to try to find uses for buildings. One of the things that the comprehensive general plan, I think, does encourage is to create spaces that are developed to the best and full use that is capable on that space. So I believe that this standard also has been met. Number 3, it will not cause a negative cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types in the immediate neighborhood and the effect of the proposed type of special use upon the city as a whole. In this particular case, we're talking about something that is a very specific area in terms of bringing residential units onto the ground floor. Obviously, again, going back to the idea of putting more people in a space to create a more lively neighborhood in this particular section of Howard Street. Having more eyes on the street, as well as meeting the needs of individuals who, again, have special needs. I don't see any negative cumulative effect coming out of this. If anything, I see positive effects from this development. So I believe that this standard has been met. Number 4, it does not interfere with or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood. Obviously, a building that is highly underutilized or not utilized to its full potential has a greater detriment to property values than a building that is being redeveloped and used to a greater good. So I think the fact that this is a project that is looking to redevelop an existing building will again only increase property values or stabilize them as opposed to having any negative effect. So standard number 4 is met. Number 5, it can be adequately served by public facilities and services. I don't believe that anything that's being proposed here will have an undue draw on any of our facilities or services in this area. As mentioned, there is a lot of residential on the 2nd and 3rd floor. There's residential space already provided for, and so I believe that this standard also has been met. Number 6, it does not cause undue traffic congestion because of the fact that this has parking, that there is a loading area that has kind of been identified in the plan. This should not cause any additional traffic along Howard or any blockage of traffic, so I don't believe that this standard will come into question. So standard number 6, I believe, is also met. Number 7, it preserves significant historical and architectural resources. Although I don't believe this building has any specific significant history or architecture to it, it appears that the plan involves using the existing structure, modifying it very slightly from the outside, with most of the structure being changed from the inside, and so I believe this standard has been met. Number 8, it preserves significant natural and environmental features. Again, the building is kind of being repurposed in its present state from the exterior, so the interior is where we're going to see the changes, so I don't believe that this standard will be impacted at all, so it has been met. Number 9, it complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it is located and other applicable ordinances, except to the extent which such ordinances have been modified through the plan development process or the grant of a variation. I think this is probably the one standard which comes a little into play with what's been discussed here in terms of the building code. I think that if we make a positive recommendation to City Council, with particular attention being paid to issues of the building code so that they are aware of what concerns we have.
Well, I would like to say that they need to comply with the approval is based on the assumption that they will comply with standards within the building code and Chapter 7, and particularly Chapter 7 and 6 in IBC, which deals with fire code.
Right. So that would be a condition that we would place on this particular recommendation. So I believe that if we do put that recommendation in place with that condition, that this standard also will be met.
And also ADA compliance in the site plan review.
So with that, I will ask for a motion for a recommendation to City Council, and I would ask that, since Clara seems to have most of the issues that she would like to put into the conditions, that she would make that.
Regarding ZBA 114ZM-JV0073, applicant applies for special use permit and major zoning relief to convert a mixed-use commercial and residential building into a multifamily residential building with ground floor use. We recommend to City Council to approve with the stipulations that the project meet IBC fire code requirements, setback requirements, for opening protection requirements, and ADA compliance in the site plan review.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded for a positive recommendation to City Council with the conditions so stated. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? With that, it will move to City Council with a recommendation for approval with those conditions. So Melissa will be in touch with you as to what the next step in your journey will be. Thank you very much. Thank you. With that, we will move on to our second case of this evening, which is 1737 Sherman Avenue, and I would ask that the documents please be read into the record.
Adam Cumis, lessee, applies for a special use permit for a Type 2 restaurant, Blaze Pizza, at 1737 Sherman Avenue. 1737 Sherman Avenue is located in the D2 Downtown Retail Core District, which requires a special use permit for Type 2 restaurants to operate. Zoning Code Section 61134. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes a recommendation to City Council, the determining body for this case. Documents included as part of the record include special use application submitted June 25th, 2014, standards form, zoning analysis, plat of survey dated April 13th, 2009, site plan, description of business, image of property, aerial view of property, zoning map of property, and Spark meeting minutes of July 16th, 2014.
Thank you. If I could ask anybody who may be testifying to this matter for us, please be sworn by raising the right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? Thank you. If you would please come up and state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Adam Cumis,
And your address, please.
777 North Michigan Avenue, apartment 2100, Chicago, Illinois, 60611.
All right, thank you. And if you would then please tell us about your project.
Sure. Blaze Pizza is a fast casual concept that we currently own 2 locations in the Chicagoland area, one on Belmont in the city and also one on Ontario just east of Michigan Avenue. It is an 11-inch pizza that can be stylized and customized for however you want to. We make all of our dough fresh in-house. You then walk through a Chipotle-style line where you are able to pick all of your ingredients out. The pizza cooks in about 180 seconds in an 800-degree oven, and you're out the door with that pizza for under $8. The concept originated in California, in Pasadena, by the founders of a couple by the name of Rick and Elise Wetzel, who founded originally Wetzel's Pretzels, if anybody's familiar with that brand, that there's 200 some odd locations around the world. There's currently 26 Blaze Pizzas open around the country. We have the rights for Cook, Lake, Will, and DuPage counties, as well as South Florida. And our current franchise rights allow us to open anywhere from 15 to 30 here in the next, I guess we're going to do 15 within 3 years. We have 2 other locations that are currently under construction. One at Presidential Towers in the city, and our other location that we're going to start construction on this week is at Old Orchard, the shopping center. And we have locations that are under construction in South Florida also, but you guys probably don't really care about that very much. So I'm going to stop talking unless anybody has any questions, and I'll fill you in on what a wonderful concept this is.
We do have a couple questions, typical questions that we go through for any sort of a restaurant. Walking through sort of how large of a dining area are you proposing to have at your location?
Sure, it's and Christian is my architect, so he can confirm anything that needs to be confirmed. But it's approximately a 1,000 square foot dining room with about a 600 to 800 square feet back of the house.
Okay. And so how much seating do you have planned to have?
There's about 35 seats.
Okay. And how many employees do you propose to have working at any one time?
At maximum capacity, we'd have 12 employees working.
And one of the concerns that we always have is where those employees will be parking. So do you have a plan for how you will handle employee parking? I'm assuming there is no parking with the space.
Well, there's certainly not going to be parking out on the street, so that will be resolved consistent with what Jimmy John's and Taco Bell and other tenants of the property are required to do.
All right. And your proposed hours of operation, I have listed as 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. during the week and 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. on weekends?
Friday and Saturday, 11 to 10 p.m., and the rest of the days of the week, 11 to 9.
Okay. And then one of the last questions we have is, you're familiar with the city's litter collection plan and the city's garbage pickup plan?
Not familiar with either of those, but I'm sure I'll be familiarized very quickly with them. Don't litter and make sure your garbage gets thrown out.
Make sure your garbage gets thrown out and gets picked up.
Yes.
And the city has a litter collection plan where any type 2 restaurant is required to patrol an area within 250 feet of their property and pick up any trash, be it yours or someone else's, basically just trying to keep the area clean, since it's the trade-off for any trash that you generate that you also help pick up.
Well, nobody's going to come to your restaurant if there's trash littered throughout the whole place, is what I've learned being in this business, so that's not really a problem.
All right.
We pride ourselves on that.
Do most of your patrons eat on site, or do most of them take it to go?
It's sort of 50-50 is what I've seen in our businesses so far. One of our locations is right by the L, and we have a lot of people who come in and they walk back out with their pizzas, and we have a certain amount of the population that wants to dine in. So I don't have a better answer than 50-50.
Are there additional questions for the applicant?
Is this all convection ovens?
No, it's an 800-degree oven with a wood stone on the bottom. And the way that it works is that the wood stone heats the pizza from underneath, and then when there's a dome inside of the oven that captures heat, kind of like a convection oven approach, but the dome that's on top then heats the ingredients that are on the top of the pizza, which
You're
enables
tied
it to
into
cook so
grease
quickly.
hoods?
Well, there's not a grease interceptor on as
You
far
have
as
a
in the
hood,
pizza oven.
though?
There is a hood.
And it's already routed through the building? Or
Correct.
Where is that exhaust?
There's black iron already in the building
Okay.
that we'll be tying into.
And I don't believe there's anything currently in this location, correct?
It is a vacant space right now.
That's what I
It's
thought.
been vacant for a while.
All right. Additional questions? Anybody else want to speak to us on this matter? If not, I'll give you a chance to say anything you'd like to in summation. It doesn't have to be anything. You can just say,
I don't have anything to say. I think I laid it out there. It's a great product. You guys will all be really happy.
All right. With that, we will go ahead and close the record and begin our deliberations. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So obviously, this is a type 2 restaurant. It's exactly the sort of thing we would be expecting to see in our downtown area. The fact that it is a somewhat unique concept in the restaurant world, I think gives it a little extra draw to it, as opposed to the fact that it would just be another fast food place or something like that. The one thing that we usually do in terms of hours is we open it up quite a bit more for the downtown core. So when we start discussing hours, I would recommend that we do our traditional hours for the downtown, which are till midnight, I know, but I don't know what time they start.
6.
6.
He'll be making breakfast pizzas anytime soon.
Okay. Well, at 11 a.m., you know,
I'd eat a breakfast pizza.
I would too. Any other comments, comments or concerns from the board? If not, we will go through the standards.
It's great to see a new restaurant downtown. Welcome.
Again, as I mentioned before, we have several standards that we must find before we can recommend approval to City Council. Again, we're recommending, since this is a special use. The first one being that it is one of the special uses specifically listed in the zoning ordinance. We find that in the D2 downtown retail core, a type 2 restaurant, as I mentioned, is one of the types of uses that we would expect to see here. So this standard has been met. Number 2, it is in keeping with the purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and zoning ordinance. Again, with it being the downtown core, it's an area where we would expect to find restaurants and other commercial businesses occurring, and the fact that this is going into a storefront, which is currently vacant and has been vacant for a while, is a good thing, and it would actually hopefully generate some additional traffic in that area, which would benefit some of the other nearby commercial businesses as well. So I believe that this standard has been met. Number 3, it will not cause a negative cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types in the immediate neighborhood. Again, just kind of repeating myself, but a type 2 restaurant is what we expect to find in this area. So I don't believe that it would have a negative cumulative effect on any of the neighboring properties or contribute to any greater negative effect in the downtown area. So this standard has been met. Number 4, it does not interfere with or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood. A vacant storefront, as mentioned before, probably does more to damage property values than a restaurant of this type. It appears that one of the few things that we often discuss is venting of hoods, things like that. It appears that all is already in place. So I would believe standard number 4 has been met. Number 5, it can be adequately served by public facilities and services. This particular area has been built with the idea that it would be serving retail and commercial establishments as well as restaurants, and so I believe that this standard has been met. Number 6, it does not cause undue traffic congestion because of the fact that we are not seeing any sort of a delivery coming through here. It appears that this is more of a 50-50 operation where people tend to stop by and eat or stop by and take it with them. I don't believe that there will be any undue traffic congestion, so this standard is met. Number 7, it preserves significant historical and architectural resources. This particular property does not have any that I am aware of, so I believe this standard has been met. Number 8, it preserves significant natural and environmental features. The building is not being proposed to go outside of its existing footprint and drastically impact in any way either natural or environmental aspects. So I believe this standard has been met. And number 9, it complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it is located and other applicable ordinances. Obviously, the operation of a restaurant requires certain ordinances or certain certificates, inspections, things like that, which are beyond our purview, but I have no reason to believe that this particular project would not comply with those existing regulations. So I believe the standard also has been met. Does everyone agree with my finding on standards?
Yep.
Yes.
So with that, I will ask if there is a motion for a recommendation to City Council.
I will move in the matter 14 ZMJV-0086 regarding the property at 1737 Sherman Avenue that we recommend to City Council that they grant a special use permit for a type 2 restaurant at that location with the following conditions: that the hours of operation be limited from 6 a.m. until midnight, that employees be prohibited from parking, utilizing street parking, and that the restaurant be required to familiarize themselves with, between now and when they begin operation, the city's garbage disposal and litter collection plans, and that the property otherwise be developed in accordance with the documents and testimony submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
With the motion being made and second, all those in favor of recommending to City Council approval of a type 2 restaurant at 1737 Sherman with the conditions as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? With the vote of 5-0, your project will be recommended to City Council. And again, like I said before, Melissa will sort of work with you on when you'll be before council. Thank you. We have the next matter on our agenda, which is 2008 Dempster Street. If you could please read that into the record.
Richard Simtab, lessee, applies for a special use permit for a commercial indoor recreation facility, Goldfish Swim School, at 2008 Dempster Street. 2008 Dempster Street is located in the I-2 General Industrial District, which requires a special use permit for commercial indoor recreation facilities to operate. Zoning Code Section 614.3.3. The Zoning Board of Appeals makes a recommendation to City Council, the determining body for this case. Documents included as part of the record include special use application submitted July 1st, 2014, standards form, zoning analysis, plat of survey dated August 31st, 1979, site plan, business plan, parking description, image of property, aerial view of property, zoning map of property, and Spark meeting minutes excerpt from July 16th, 2014.
Thank you. If I could have anyone who may be speaking to us on this matter, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? Thank you. If you would please come up and tell us your name and address.
My name is Sally Anderson. It's 909 Elmwood Avenue, apartment F1, Evanston, 60202.
All right. And would you like to tell us about the project, please?
Yep, we brought a PowerPoint that I saw up on the screen earlier, so if we can pull that up. All right. So Goldfish Swim School was slide 2. You up there? Back. Excellent. Oh, good. All right, so the company was founded in 2006 in Birmingham, Michigan. That's still where our corporate office is located. There are now 17 franchises open, mostly in the Midwest. There are 3 in the Chicagoland area, 1 in Roscoe Village, 1 in Naperville, and 1 in St. Charles, and there's 1 under construction currently in the Burr Ridge, Hinsdale area. My business partners and I are from the Ann Arbor location, and then they also own the Okemos location, and I would be the GM on site once we open. All right, so we service children from 4 months to 12 years old. The babies are in the water with their parents, and we go all the way up to a swim team where they can learn competitive swimming techniques and even join a swim team, and then we recommend when they might be ready for an even more competitive swim team. So children swim in the 90-degree water, so it's nice and warm. They don't get too cold. And the air temperature on the pool deck is also at 92 degrees. So the teachers stay nice and warm while they're standing and teaching, and the kids, it's nice and comfortable for them. Our classes are limited to a 4-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio. We do have some classes, we do private lessons and semi-private lessons as well, where there can be 2 children to 1 instructor, and then we have a 2-year-old class that's 3-to-1, but on average they are 4-to-1, so nice small classes. We also have Family Swim open to the public, so you don't necessarily have to be a member enrolled in lessons to be able to come in and just use our pool. So it's usually over the lunch hour on weekdays and then on weekend evenings, Fridays and Sundays. We also do birthday parties as well as our open swim that are also open to the public. You don't necessarily have to be enrolled in lessons to have your birthday party with us. So the parents don't have to sit in the 92 degrees. They stay behind a glass wall and watch the lessons. In the last 5 minutes, we invite them out to talk to the teachers and pick their kids up. But they stay nice and air conditioned, but can see with floor to ceiling windows, so they can see the whole pool area during classes. So this is showing basically the aerial view. We are in building basically right in the middle of the screen there, just off Evanston Plaza and to the east side of the half circle parking area. And a close-up of our entry off Dempster Street. All right. Then we're moving into parking, which I know is probably one of the major concerns. So on average, we can take up to 4 classes at a time, or 12 classes at a time with 4 kids in each class. That's about 48 kids at once. On average, I would say at least half of the children have a sibling, and so not all families are bringing a separate car because more than one child in a family can take a lesson at once. So even if every child didn't have a sibling, that's about 48 cars per half hour, and we have 185 parking spaces just on our side of the complex. There's 385 total, and then the staff parking is even separate from that 385 in a separate lot to the west side of the complex. So that's what I just covered. The 385 spaces, 185 just on our side of the building. Staff would probably be taking about 12 spaces just during lessons. When we're not running lessons, we only have about 3 or 4 staff members on site. Lesson shifts run between about 9 and noon on the weekday mornings and about 3 to 7 on the weekday afternoons. And then weekends, we go about 9 to 2 on Saturdays, and then birthday parties. And Sundays, pretty much from 10 to about 4, and then we have open swim. So during those shifts is when we would have more staff on site, but when we're not running lessons, it's only about 3 or 4. And again, the parents might take at maximum about 48 spots, but given the siblings and the other families carpool, we're averaging probably between 30 to 40 cars per half hour during lessons. But again, they come in and take their class and then leave. It's not really a facility in which they hang out or there's much for the parents to do besides watch their children swim. So we're proposing that our front entrance will actually be around to what is now the back of the building, and so they will be required to turn in off Dempster and come in and park, and then come into the back of the building. We'd actually share that vestibule with the KinderCare that's there, and then the front would just have signage. The pool is actually going to be facing the main part of Dempster Street, so we'll have some windows there, but the main entrance, again, will be around the back. It's a little bit safer that way with little ones coming in to take their classes. And that's about it.
What are the proposed hours of operation?
Yes, we have that in one of the documents we sent. It's on that one. Yep. All right. So basically for office hours and registration, we would be open 8:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. Saturdays from about 8:30 to 6:30. Sundays from about 10 to 7. And that's just operations, but then when we're actually running lessons is much smaller than that, about 9 to noon on weekdays, 3 to 7 also on weekdays, and then 9 to 2 on Saturdays, and about 10 to 4 on Sundays.
Okay, so with classes running till 7 p.m. In the winter, what, if anything, are you planning to do to enhance the lighting or security around the building?
Yes, we have proposed with our architect that
If I could just ask you to state your name, please, for the record.
I'm Jack Barbat. I'm Sally's business partner in this project. So we are putting floodlights on top of the building to light up the sidewalk area as well as the entrance area. And there are parking lights in the parking lot right now as well. Our landlord is also redoing the parking lot as far as repaving and restriping and re-landscaping and lighting it up as well.
How many other businesses do you share that parking lot with?
Right now, there's KinderCare there, and there's Temperance, yeah.
The Temperance Brew Pub with their tap room. That's it on that side of the complex.
So of the 185 spaces that you're identifying, out of the total 385, are those somehow deeded to you as part of your lease, or is it just like a general pool and they're saying, oh, you guys can have about this many, or how's that work?
Well, there's 185 available in the general pool, like you said. Landlord did not dedicate specific parking per unit. We asked that, we'd like to take 60 because that's what our average is throughout the board with the 17 locations that's going on, and that wasn't an issue at all.
Okay.
But you share that 185 with KinderCare and the Brew Pub,
Yes.
whatever that thing is?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not really a brew pub. I think they just have a tap room. It's
Okay.
where they do their brewing. And I
Okay.
think they have maybe a 10 or 20 space tap room, but they don't even have a restaurant in there.
Right, it's a fairly small
Yeah.
operation. I'm guessing KinderCare is
Just a drop-off.
Drop
it's
off.
going to drop off, not really people parking.
And I think they actually have a drop off and pick up on the front side of the building as well. I'd have to confirm that, but
And by front side, you mean north or east or west?
Dempster.
north.
Okay.
On
The circle parking lot.
Yeah.
The circle.
The half.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
KinderCare allows pick up and drop off in there.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be running into them.
Right, because that would obviously be a concern during pickup and drop off, right? If that happens to coincide with one of your times when 25 to 30 parents are coming in as well.
That was one of the reasons why the landlord is going to redo the lot layout, per se.
To make ingress and egress a little clearer?
Yes.
Okay.
And just kind of for the record, we've not heard any objection to this project from any of the neighbors, not that there are many residential neighbors in this area.
We have not.
Are there other questions from members of the board? If not, is there anybody else who wishes to speak to us on this matter? Not seeing anyone. If you'd just like to say a few words in summation.
I know traffic on Dempster Street has been brought up as maybe an issue, but because there's that light at Hartray on the west side of our complex, and then another one right at Evanston Plaza's entry and exit, just west of the McDonald's, I think with those two kind of on either side of where our entrance would be, it would really help control traffic, so I don't see that being an issue.
All right. Thank you.
The bigger issue, if you want my unsolicited advice, will be finding that entryway off of Dempster.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
I didn't even know it was there, and I drive that every day.
KinderCare has a sign right at the entryway right now, and we have proposed to the landlord to add some
There
signage.
was an existing sign with the previous tenant in that spot, and it was removed. So we're in the process of reworking that, putting a sign back up on that entrance area. There's like a big hole in the ground with electrical coming out from the previous one, so.
All right, thank you. So with that, we will close the record and begin our deliberations. Are there general comments from members of the board? If not,
And we granted a similar use in this neighborhood for the indoor soccer facility across the street, and I think other than the neighbors, they are not liking the traffic pattern. That's been a pretty good success. And it seems like a good use of a property that's otherwise not being used right now in a good area.
Right. This building has been vacant for a long time. There was a church there for a little bit, and that wasn't a really great use. It was only once a week, so this would bring a lot more visibility to the plaza.
well, and I do like the idea that most of the traffic is being directed into the rear, that they intend to make the rear of the building the main entrance. So any traffic concerns that we might have would hopefully be allayed by that. And with all of the parking being provided back there, people would be more likely to use that entrance.
I think left turns out of there, so going west, are going to be brutal. So it would be nice if there was access from that parking south across the back of the lot line to Hartray, and then you could get out at the light, but I'm not sure that's in our purview to say.
It doesn't appear that there is anywhere,
Or that's even an option,
that
but,
there's anywhere that building doesn't
because that left turn's just going to be,
go.
Right, you can go all the way around the building, but then it stops in back of where Frank's used to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Just thinking about conditions, what are the hours of operation that we would typically limit this type of use in this area to?
I mean, I would say because of the fact that the property is pretty well surrounded by commercial use, there's not really residential within a block
It's a block away.
of it. If even within a block, it's a little bit more than that. The hours that are proposed from an 8:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. appears to be the greatest outlier. I mean, I'm fine with us going as early as 6 to as late as 10 p.m. But that's my personal.
And then just from my own standpoint, in terms of conditions, I think we did this for the soccer facility, but if we're going to recommend that the special use be granted, I feel pretty strongly that we also condition it on the installation of sufficient lighting for safe conditions.
Yes, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think because of the fact that the parking lot and the main entrance is secluded somewhat from the main street, any additional lighting that can be created to help prevent accidents or any sort of an environment where people may want to do no good.
It feels like an alley. I mean, that particular strip. I've been to Temperance a number of times. It
Right.
feels like you're in an alley. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you do feel very cut off
behind
from-
the
Shopping
plaza.
center,
And,
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm perfectly fine with that being placed as a condition on the particular property. Again, I get to go through the standards. We have 9 standards. Again, this is a special use. We are a recommending body to City Council. So we will walk through the standards once again. Number 1, it is one of the special uses specifically listed in the zoning ordinance, and we do find that in an I2 general industrial district, that a commercial indoor recreation facility is one of the specific uses that is specific special uses that is allowed. So this standard has been met. Number 2, it is in keeping with the purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and zoning ordinance as amended from time to time. One of the things that we find in the comprehensive general plan is to, again, grow businesses, find opportunities for redevelopment, and to repurpose buildings that are existing, if they can be, to meet specific needs. And I believe that all of those have been met, so the standard is met. Number 3, it will not cause a negative cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types in the immediate neighborhood. Because, again, this is sort of a commercial area, we don't have a lot of residential bordering on this. This is the type of place where we would expect to find businesses. There's a parking lot that can easily accommodate the additional traffic that they are proposing to bring in. And the fact, as mentioned once before, that the traffic is being routed off of the main road and into a private parking lot should help alleviate some of the congestion in the area. But I do not believe that this will cause any problems in the neighborhood that will be a negative effect. So this standard has been met. Number 4, it does not interfere with or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood, as stated on previous special uses. Obviously, a business development is ideal over a vacant property. So the fact that this property has been sitting for a while and its use will be intended to be used 7 days a week, and during those days, it looks like it'll be operating. People will be in the facility for somewhere between 10 to 12 hours. So it'll be putting people again in that area and creating some additional life in that area. So I believe, if anything, this will only help property values. So this standard is met. Number 5, it can be adequately served by public facilities and services. This is an existing building. Again, it already has connections to most of the public utilities and those sorts of things. The fact that it has this private lot in back that they are able to make use of, I think all goes towards meeting this standard. Number 6, it does not cause undue traffic congestion. This is one of the things that we've talked about. And again, the fact that the main entrance is being located off the parking lot to the rear only goes to help alleviate what congestion is there. I would note that Dempster, though, is one of our main thoroughfares, so we expect to see some traffic on that street regardless of what type of business goes in here. Number 7, it preserves significant historical and architectural resources. The building is being redeveloped in its present state. I don't believe, again, that there's any significance to this particular building, so I believe that this standard is met. Number 8, it preserves significant natural and environmental features. Again, we are not expanding the footprint of the building or any of the hard surface in the area. Again, this is a commercial industrial area. We expect to see a greater intensity of coverage of the area, but it doesn't appear that we're going to be changing the natural features on this particular lot at all. So I believe this standard is met. And number 9, it complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it is located and other applicable ordinances. Again, I don't know what other regulations are required for a commercial indoor facility, but the fact that the particular applicant has worked with these types of things before, I don't predict there to be any problems or surprises about regulations or additional ordinances that may come into play here. So I believe that this standard is met. Does everyone agree with my finding on standards?
Yep.
Yes.
So with that, I will ask if there is a motion for a recommendation on 2008 Dempster Street to City Council.
Okay. In the matter of ZBA 14ZMJV-0086, in the matter of ZBA 14ZMJV-0087 at 2008 Dempster Street, I recommend that we approve the special use permit for a commercial indoor recreation facility, conditional that the hours be limited to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and that they consider revising the lighting plan for safety.
And that the development be in substantial compliance with the testimony and documents.
And that, yes.
And with that, is there a second?
Just a quick friendly amendment, sorry. Rather than that they consider the safety, that it be conditioned on making it safe.
Be conditioned on making it safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, is there a second then?
I second that. Yep.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend approval of 2008 Dempster Street with the attached conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? With 5 ayes and 0 against, it will move to City Council with a recommendation for approval. Good luck with your project. With that, we move on to our final case of this evening, which is 221-223 Kedzie Street. If you would please read that into the record.
Donnelly Floater and Tatiana Kleiman, architect and property owner, apply for major zoning relief to replace a shared detached garage. The applicants request a 0-foot west interior side yard setback for 221 Kedzie Street and a 0-foot east interior side yard setback for 223 Kedzie Street, where 3 feet is required. Zoning Code Section 6877C4. The Zoning Board of Appeals is the determining body for this case. Documents included as part of the record include variance applications submitted July 2nd, 2014, standards form, zoning analyses, plat of survey for 221 Kedzie Street dated March 18th, 2014, plat of survey for 223 Kedzie Street dated January 14th, 2014, site plans, elevations, easement agreement, images of property, aerial view of property, zoning map of property, and Spark meeting minutes excerpt from July 23rd, 2014.
Thank you. No, I sometimes forget and just like it that way, you know. I don't like overhead lights. Could I ask everyone who may be speaking to us in this matter to please be sworn by raising your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. And if you would please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Donnelly Floater. I'm an architect. My address is 826 Gray Avenue, Evanston, and I've been hired by the 2 homeowners of these properties to design and provide drawings for the proposed new garage.
And so just to be clear, we have both homeowners present, is that
Correct.
Okay. So if you would please tell us about your project.
Oh, sure. Just to introduce, this is Jeremy Bloomfield. He owns 221 with his wife Christine, and this is Tatiana Kleiman, who owns 223.
All right, thank you. And please tell us about your project.
Oh, so these homes were built in the early part of the 1900s, 1903 and 1906, respectively. The garage that's currently on this property was built in 1926. And if you've driven by and looked at it, it looks like a garage that was built in 1926. It is in sincere need of replacement. It's a very unusual condition in that it's a shared garage for both homes. Right now, it's just a square box with one set of doors. There's no separation between each side of the garage for each owner to have a private, secure parking and storage area. So in the course of wanting to replace this garage, we're making it slightly bigger, slightly differently shaped in order to accommodate a car for each owner, storage for each owner, a separate door for each owner, and there'll be a wall down the middle of the garage to separate the 2 spaces for safety and security. The other factor is that there's no alley connected to behind this lot. The driveway comes from Kedzie Avenue, Kedzie Street, and is shared. It goes right down the lot line that's between the 2 properties. So even though it sounds excessive to ask for 0 lot line or 0 setback, this garage is currently there, and we're just asking to replace and reconstruct a new garage that would be more suitable. Given even that these 2 lots are quite small, 221 is about 4,000 square feet, 223 is 3,800 square feet. None of the proposal has exceeded the lot coverage, roof lot coverage, or impermeable surface coverages. And we are complying with the rear yard setback for detached garages. So it's really just that shared side yard setback that's at question. The other part of the project is that there's a very large oak tree behind the garage currently, which is, for the most part, on the Bloomfield's property, which is 221. And it is both homeowners' great desire to take care of this tree, and they've hired an arborist to be consulting as part of the project. The arborist's recommendation is that when the current garage is torn down, he would be present to make sure no roots are being cut, or which roots are appropriate to be cut, and the same for that procedure during the actual construction of the new garage. So the tree is a very lovely and old. The garage and the tree have likely grown up together, so we want to make sure the new garage and the tree will welcome its new garage neighbor. So that's that's the story.
Where do the cars pull in?
From facing Kedzie. So right now the driveway runs from Kedzie between the two houses, and they pull straight into the existing garage. This shows the proposed, but the doors are facing straight at you when you pull in. So backing out will be fun, but it's how the configuration is set up now. We briefly thought about configuring two separate garages on either, so you'd turn, in a sort of a T-shaped, but that would require variances for lot coverage and definitely for impermeable surfaces, so we didn't want to go there. And it would leave them with paved backyards. So we thought this was the most appropriate solution.
And if I remember correctly, this is a ribbon driveway.
Right, it's two tire tracks, yeah. I think we have enough leftover square footage in the impermeable surface to make it a solid drive, but just barely. But yes, that is how it is. Part of it, the street apron is solid, then there's sort of the two tire treads, and then it's more solidly paved when you get behind the houses.
Are there questions?
I've been over there. I have no idea how you're going to do this. It's like so close to the houses.
But there's a garage there now.
Yeah, there is. I'm talking about just the whole construction is going to be fun.
There's room to construct. You can get a Bobcat just needs 5 feet to come in, and the foundation required for a detached garage only goes down 12 inches. So, and that's a good thing for the tree as well. So,
yeah. Wow.
So yeah, guys with shovels can get in there and dig. So doing construction in there will not be a problem.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments? Not hearing any. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to us about the matter? Seeing none. Anything you would like to say in summation?
Just that we are proposing to rebuild this in approximately the same location that the current garage is in. The new garage will be more attractive, safer, and more secure, separate for each owner, and we hope that you'll vote to approve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will close the record and begin our deliberations. I would just like to say if we had more people who came to us with a project that was kind of straightforward like this and didn't want to totally change everything, it would be very nice. Obviously, the fact that we are looking at trying to do the minimal here instead of
I'm
overly
so grateful
paving
for that.
and
So grateful.
creating separate garages, et cetera, I think is commendable.
Absolutely.
And
it's a really attractive looking garage. I think the articulation is really nice. So I think that's really going to be helpful.
additional comments? If not,
Love the minimum change necessary. Love it.
okay. I have a question for council. Yes. Hello, wake up. We had discussed not having to go through standards when it appears that we are all overwhelmingly in agreement. I do not necessarily want to prematurely do that, so I don't know where we stand on if that is now acceptable practice or if I should go through the standards.
We should go through acceptable standards right now, and then as we make revisions in the future, we can address that.
So with that, I have 7 standards to go through, but at least these aren't special use ones, so I get to say something a little different. Number 1, the requested variation will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use, enjoyment, or properties of value of adjoining properties. Because of the fact that the 2 properties are adjoining themselves and sort of wanting to infringe upon each other and create a situation that already exists, I believe the standard is met. Number 2, the requested variation is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. The fact that we always try to get off-street parking wherever possible, and obviously rebuilding dilapidated structures, I believe that this standard is met. Number 3, the alleged hardship or practical difficulty is peculiar to the property. Because of the fact there is no alley access here, we're dealing with a mature oak tree and not wanting to pave over the entire backyard of a substandard lot and maintain green space for the owners. I believe that this standard is met and that this is a peculiar property. Number 4, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the law of the regulations were to be carried out. I really don't see how you can do anything differently than what is there without bringing in additional changes that need to be made or additional zoning or variations that need to be requested. So this standard is met. Number 5, the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property. We're replacing an existing garage which has been standing for close to 90 years, which I think it has served its time and is definitely needing to be replaced. So I don't believe that additional income is the main purpose for the variation request, so the standard is met. Number 6, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property, unless either of these people were alive in 1927 and built the garage. I don't believe that we have anything except an existing condition here when these properties were purchased, so this standard is met. And number 7, the requested variation requires the least deviation from the applicable regulation among the feasible options identified. I think this is the one that we are most happy about because of the fact that this indeed is truly the least variation that could be made in order to allow the owners to each have a separate garage in sort of the existing space and not requesting a bunch of variations in order to get that. So I believe this standard has been met. So with that, does everyone agree with my findings on standards?
Yes.
Yep.
Is there a motion? And I would remind everyone that we are the determining body in this, so it'll be a motion for approval of the requested variations.
I move in the matter 14 ZMJV-0088 regarding the properties at 221 and 223 Kedzie Street that we approve the variations requested with the condition that the property be developed in accordance with the testimony and documents submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded for approval of the requested variation at 221, 223 Kedzie Street. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? With a motion of 5 to, or with a vote of 5 to 0, the motion carries and you are approved to move forward with your project. Thank you. With that, we have moved through the cases that we have on our agenda for this evening. We have one other quick item of discussion. We had requested, and everyone should have received a copy of the ZBA rules. And the request was made that if there were particular things that you wish to see changed, amended, added, deleted, that those be submitted. I know Melissa received stuff from some board members, not from others. I would just ask if there were things that if you looked through them and you were happy with everything, if you would just let her know that as well. And then what we're going to do moving forward is I will be meeting with Melissa and Mario to sort of come up with a draft proposal so we aren't going through each and every item and discussing it ad nauseum, and then present sort of a whole thing, and then we can discuss any particular items that people feel are topics of discussion, because a lot of it is more procedural than anything else. So if that meets with everyone's approval, that's how we'll move forward on it.
Great.
Sounds great.
All right. So we will look to meet at some point. I don't know if we'll get to it before the next meeting, but definitely by our first meeting in September, of having sort of a draft of changes to the rules for discussion. And that's the only matter I have to bring forward. Is there any other issues that people have to bring forward?
I
I have a couple of quick things to mention. Our next meeting is August 19th. We will not be in council chambers. Construction will be going on in here, so we will be meeting in room 2200. There are microphones in there, and we will be recorded, but we may not be streaming live. And other than that, typically in September, we have one meeting, and our second meeting that month is canceled due to other activities in council chambers, but we have an extremely full zoning board schedule, so we need to have a second meeting in September. We will not be in this room, but our typical date would have been September 16th. If you guys can look at your schedules, let me know if that works, and then I can find a meeting room for us.
What's the first date?
September 2nd.
Yeah, I won't be here for that one.
That's the day after the holiday, Tuesday.
I may not be here for that one either because of the holiday.
It's the holiday weekend.
Okay, I'll send out an early quorum call, see if we have a problem with that one also.
If that is the case and we have an extremely full docket, I would be open to us scheduling meetings, since we have 5 Tuesdays in September, of us going on the 9th and 23rd. My eyes are horrible. I thought that's what it said, but I couldn't make it out, so I had to go back. I had to go back and count. But if that works for everyone a little better, I'm fine with us doing.
I'm still out of town on the 9th.
Okay. So maybe if we can just sort of see when people are available on Tuesdays in September, and try to fit 2 meetings in during the month of September. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. With that, is there a motion for adjournment?
Are we starting that now?
Yeah. We're finishing.
I can't do it, so.
I'm not going to do it.
All right.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Nay.